I went to church probably the first Sunday after I was born. I'm not sure of that, and I've gone to church my entire life. I've always gone to a Baptist church my entire life. Very thankful for my parents and that they were always very consistent with bringing us to church whenever the doors were open. Unless, we were sick, we were always in church. And that was able to give me a really great Bible background to where, not that automatically makes you have a great relationship with the Lord, because it doesn't, but it allowed me to have kind of that basis in the Lord and understanding of the Bible. So my parents have gone to 2 different churches for my entire life. The very first one was up until I was 10 years old, and that was the church I was saved in. I was saved when I was 6 years old. I remember I was going to say goodnight to my parents, and my older sister was before me, and she went down to give them a hug and kiss, and my mom said, I'm really thankful, Sarah, that you're saved and you're going to be in heaven with us. And then it got to me, and they said, I hope one day that you'll accept Christ. And I started bawling and crying, and I told my mom that, I wanted to accept Christ. And even though I was only 6 years old, I remember understanding clearly what Jesus had done for me, the fact that I was a sinner, and that Jesus was the only one that could pay for that sin, that he lived the perfect life that I couldn't live, and paid that debt, and all I had to do was accept that free gift. And so on that night, I prayed and asked the Lord into my heart, and remember just going around telling everyone, at least all of my siblings, because I was at the house, how excited I was that I had accepted Christ. And then when I first got to college, it was a time when I really wanted to start gaining a closer relationship with the Lord, where you're out on your own. And I wasn't necessarily doing a lot of really horrible things, but I knew that in my heart, I wasn't where I wanted to be with the Lord. And in God's eyes, that's just the same. To bring me back, or to get me closer to him, has always been trials, very, very hard times. When one of those instances was when I was in undergrad, I believe it was my junior year, and I was having extremely, extremely severe stomach problems, and it was almost unbearable. And I ended up going to the emergency room a couple times, and by the second time they decided to admit me into the hospital, and I was there for about a week, and it was an extremely hard time. I felt very sick. By the end of it, they diagnosed me with ulcerative colitis, and it was pretty much something that I'd likely have to deal with the rest of my life. And the next 6 months were extremely hard. I was very sick pretty much every single day. And during that time, I really had to make a decision as to whether I was going to be angry at God for allowing that to happen during a very hard time, or whether I was going to draw closer to him. And I remember the night I got back from the hospital, I just read all of the book of Romans, and the Lord gave me such a peace. And obviously it doesn't change in an instant, but I know that my relationship with the Lord, I really felt like it started to grow a lot during that time. So I've really enjoyed being a part of a lot of different ministries here at Gateway. There's, of course, the live drive-through nativity. I've been able to be Mary in that, and also the angel. That's been a lot of fun. The spiritual avalanche. But I would say above all of those things, it's not a ministry that people would commonly say is a ministry, but kind of based on the Bible verses in Matthew, where the Pharisees asked Jesus, what's the greatest commandment? And he tells them, well, the first is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. And then the second is like that, and that's that you love your neighbor as yourself. And it says that all the law and the prophets hang on this. So pretty much everything is wrapped up in that saying. So that would be the most important ministry to me, because that puts the focus where it should be. It's on the Lord Jesus and the work that he's done in loving him, and then loving others in the church.